A man from Texas arrived in Tokyo in 2019 weighing 240 pounds. He was not unusual. He was average. Average American diet, average American body, average American relationship with food, which means he thought about it constantly, felt guilty about it daily, and understood it not at all. On his third day in Tokyo, he noticed something that he could not explain. Nobody was fat, not a little overweight, not carrying a few extra pounds. Nobody. He walked through Shibuya, crossing with 100,000 people moving around him in every direction, and he could not find a single obese person. He ate in restaurants where the portions were half the size of what he was used to, and left feeling completely satisfied. He watched Japanese people eat slowly, quietly, with what looked almost like reverence. No phones, no distraction, just food and complete attention. He lost 11 pounds in 3 weeks without trying, without changing what he ate, without exercising more than he normally would, simply by being inside a culture that had a completely different relationship with the body. When he came home to Texas, he gained it all back in 2 months. That story is not unusual. Thousands of Western visitors report the same thing. And the question that nobody in the diet industry wants you to ask is this: what does Japan know that we don't? The answer is not a diet. It is not a supplement. It is not a gym program. It is a philosophy. One that the samurai built over 1,000 years ago, and that Japan still carries in its blood today. And that is exactly what this video is about. Welcome to Void Dojo. 7 Japanese secrets that keep samurai lean for life. Number 1. Hara Hachi Bu. The ancient rule of never finishing your plate. Number 2. Ichiju Sansai. The meal system that makes overeating almost impossible. Number 3. Ma. The deliberate pause between bites that changes everything. Number 4. Shinrin Yoku. The samurai movement practice that burns fat without feeling like exercise. Number 5. Nuchi Gusui. The philosophy that turns every meal into medicine. These 5 alone will change how you think about your body forever. But numbers 6 and 7 are the ones the diet industry does not want you to know. Because if you understand them, you will never need a diet again. Stay with me. Secret number 1. Hara Hachi Bu. Stop at 80%. This is the most important principle in this entire video, and it is the one that will change your body the fastest if you apply it starting today. Hara Hachi Bu is a Confucian teaching that the people of Okinawa have practiced for centuries. It translates directly as eat until you are 8 parts out of 10 full. Stop before you are satisfied. Stop before the fullness arrives, because the fullness always arrives. It just arrives 20 minutes after you stop eating. The samurai understood this in a way that was not about health, it was about performance. A warrior who ate to full capacity was a warrior whose body was redirecting blood and energy toward digestion rather than toward readiness. In the dojo, the samurai who trained on a full stomach was slower, less sharp, less present. The body working to process excess food is a body that cannot simultaneously be a weapon, so they trained themselves to stop before fullness, not as deprivation, as precision. In the villages of Okinawa today, the elders who practice Hara Hachi Bu consistently live past 100 years old. Not in declining health, in remarkable clarity and physical capability. The island has more centenarians per capita than anywhere else on Earth, and researchers who have studied them for decades keep arriving at the same conclusion. The single most consistent practice across all of them is this: they stop eating before they are full. Every single meal, every single day, for their entire lives. The Western world does the opposite. Portions in the United States have increased by over 230% since the 1950s. Restaurant meals in England regularly contain double the caloric content a human body needs in an entire day, and the culture celebrates finishing the plate, cleaning the bowl, having seconds. These are expressions of enjoyment, of politeness, of normalcy. They are also the precise mechanism through which an entire civilization gets fat while spending billions of dollars trying to get thin. The application is simple. At your next meal, eat until you feel almost satisfied. Not satisfied, almost. Then stop. Sit with a slight emptiness for 20 minutes. You will discover that it disappears completely, that the fullness arrived without you needing to pursue it, that the body needed less than you gave it for decades. Secret number 2. Ichiju Sansai. 1 soup, 3 dishes. Walk into any traditional Japanese home at mealtime, and you will see the same structure on the table that has been there for over 1,000 years. A bowl of miso soup, a bowl of rice, and 3 small side dishes, each one different, each one small. Together they form a complete meal that satisfies completely without excess. This is Ichiju Sansai, 1 soup and 3 sides, and it is not just a meal structure, it is a philosophy of sufficiency. The samurai ate this way, not because they were poor. Many of the most powerful warlords in Japanese history ate Ichiju Sansai by choice, when they could have eaten anything. Tokugawa Ieyasu, the man who unified Japan and ruled it for generations, was famous for eating simple meals in small quantities. He believed that a man who required elaborate food to feel satisfied was a man whose appetites controlled him, rather than the other way around. The structure itself is the genius. Multiple small portions of different foods creates a sensory experience that large portions of a single food cannot replicate. The brain registers satisfaction not just from volume, but from variety. When you eat 3 small distinct flavors, your brain receives 3 separate satisfaction signals. When you eat 1 large portion of one thing, your brain receives 1 signal and demands more volume to compensate for the missing variety. This is why you can eat an enormous American meal and still feel like something is missing, and why a Japanese meal that is objectively smaller leaves you feeling complete. The Ichiju Sansai structure also naturally limits the intake of any single food. You cannot overeat rice when the rice is one of 4 elements, rather than the entire meal. You cannot overeat anything when the portions are designed for balance rather than for fullness. The samurai applied this principle not just to food, but to all consumption. Enough of many things is always more satisfying than too much of one thing. This is a truth about the human mind that extends far beyond the dining table. But it begins there. Start with your next meal. Instead of 1 large serving of one thing, create variety, smaller amounts, more different flavors, less volume, more sensory engagement. You will finish eating feeling more satisfied with less food in your body than you have ever experienced. Secret number 3. Ma. The pause that changes everything. Me is one of the most important concepts in all of Japanese culture. It appears in architecture, in music, in conversation, in the tea ceremony, in sword fighting. It means the deliberate empty space between things. The pause that gives meaning to what surrounds it. Applied to eating, me is the practice of stopping completely between bites. setting down your chopsticks, experiencing what you just ate before introducing the next thing, being present with the food rather than using the food to fill the time between bites. Watch a Japanese person eat and you will see meh in practice. There is no urgency. There is no racing toward the bottom of the bowl. Each bite is complete before the next begins. The meal is not a task to be finished. It is an experience to be had. The samurai elevated this to a formal philosophy. The tea ceremony, which every samurai was trained in regardless of their rank or battle experience, is essentially a practice in ma. Every movement is deliberate. Every pause is intentional. Every moment between actions is as important as the actions themselves. Sen no Rikyu, the master who codified the tea ceremony in the 16th century, taught that the moment of stillness between pouring and drinking contained more meaning than the drinking itself. This is not spiritual abstraction. It is neurological precision. Your brain requires approximately 20 minutes from the moment food enters your stomach to register satiety signals. This is not a design flaw. It is the system. The problem is that modern eating happens so fast that most people consume 2 or 3 times what they need before the signal arrives. By the time your brain says stop, you have already committed to the excess. Meh solves this not by controlling how much you eat, but by slowing the rate at which you eat until the natural signals can catch up with the consumption. When you pause between bites, the meal takes longer. The satiety signal arrives before the bowl is empty. And you stop naturally, without discipline, without willpower, without counting anything. The samurai did not think of this as eating slowly. They thought of it as eating with presence, as bringing to the meal the same quality of attention they brought to everything else. Full engagement with the current moment before moving to the next. At your next meal, set down whatever you are eating between every bite. Do not pick it up again until you have finished chewing completely and have paused for 3 full seconds. This will feel strange. It will feel slow. It will feel like you are eating differently than everyone around you. You are. Now we go deeper, because the first 3 secrets are about how you eat. The next 4 are about something more fundamental. They are about why the samurai treated the body the way they did, about the philosophy underneath the practice, about the history that explains why Japan built a civilization of lean, disciplined people while the West built a civilization of abundance and its consequences. To understand the next 4 secrets, you need to understand one story. A story about a samurai general who changed the course of Japanese history and whose relationship with his own body was inseparable from his ability to do it. In the late 16th century, Japan was fracturing. Decades of civil war had left the country divided among dozens of warlords, each fighting for dominance over a nation that had forgotten what peace felt like. Into this chaos came a man named Toyotomi Hideyoshi, a man who began life as a peasant farmer's son with no family name, no land, no inheritance, and no reasonable prospect of becoming anything more than what his father was. He became the ruler of all Japan, not through the accident of birth, not through inherited power, through a quality of physical and mental discipline that his contemporaries described in almost supernatural terms. Hideyoshi could outmarch his own soldiers, could sustain campaigns that broke men half his age, could think clearly under conditions of exhaustion and hunger that reduced other commanders to paralysis. When his officers ate, Hideyoshi ate less. When his soldiers rested, Hideyoshi kept moving. Not because he was performing for anyone, because he understood something that the samurai code made explicit. The body that requires comfort to function is a body that can be defeated by the removal of comfort. The body that has been trained to need less is a body that cannot be weakened by deprivation. This was not about staying lean for aesthetic reasons. It was about building a body that remained operational under all conditions. A body that the enemy could not defeat simply by cutting off the supply lines. A body whose performance was independent of circumstances. Hideyoshi ruled Japan for years and built some of the most significant military and architectural achievements in the country's history, and those who recorded his life noted consistently that he ate in a way that struck observers as almost ascetic, small portions, simple foods, never to excess. Not as a spiritual discipline, as a strategic one. The body was a weapon, and he never stopped maintaining it. Secret number 4. Shinrin-yoku, the forest bath. The samurai did not exercise, not in the way we think of exercise. They did not have training sessions dedicated to burning calories or building cardiovascular fitness as ends in themselves. What they had was movement as a constant condition of existence. A samurai in feudal Japan walked, constantly, not to a destination particularly, as a practice. Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman who ever lived, spent decades walking the roads of Japan, challenging every warrior he could find. He covered thousands of miles on foot, not because he needed to get somewhere, but because the walking itself was part of who he was. This practice has a name in Japanese culture: Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing. The deliberate act of moving slowly through natural environments as a form of physical and mental maintenance, not hiking to a peak, not running a trail, simply being in motion through nature at a pace that allows the environment to work on the body. The research on Shinrin-yoku is extensive and consistent. Walking in natural environments for as little as 20 minutes per day reduces cortisol levels by measurably significant amounts. Cortisol is the stress hormone that directly promotes fat storage, particularly around the abdomen. A body under chronic stress stores fat as a survival mechanism, regardless of caloric intake. This is why people under sustained stress gain weight even when they are not eating more. The body is responding to cortisol, not to calories. The samurai who spent their lives moving through the natural environments of Japan were constantly, involuntarily regulating the cortisol response that in sedentary modern people runs chronically high and chronically unchecked. They were not trying to lose weight. They were simply living in a way that made weight accumulation physiologically difficult. The application in modern life requires no gym, no equipment, no scheduled workout. 20 minutes of walking outside every day, not on a treadmill. Outside, in whatever natural environment is available. A park, a trail, a path along water. The body responds to natural environments in ways it does not respond to artificial ones. The trees, the variable terrain, the quality of the light, the sounds of wind and water activate the parasympathetic nervous system in ways that directly counter the cortisol accumulation that makes modern people fat despite their best efforts. The samurai did not think of this as health maintenance. They thought of it as being alive. Moving through the world was not something they scheduled. It was something they were. The body in motion as a natural state rather than the body at rest interrupted occasionally by effort. Secret number 5. Nuchi Gusui, food as medicine. On the island of Okinawa, there is a phrase that every child learns before they learn almost anything else about food. Nuchi gusui. It translates as food is medicine, and it is not a metaphor. It is a framework for every decision made at every meal for an entire lifetime. The samurai understood this in military terms. Before a battle, specific foods were eaten not for pleasure, but for preparation. Umeboshi, the fermented sour plum, was carried by samurai warriors because its alkaline properties counteracted the lactic acid that builds up in muscles during extreme physical exertion. Brown rice was preferred over white, because the sustained energy release kept the warrior functional through long campaigns without the peaks and crashes of refined carbohydrates. Miso, made from fermented soybeans, provided dense nutrition in small volume, critical for warriors who needed to carry their provisions and could not afford the weight of abundance. Every food choice was made through the lens of function. What does this do to my body? How does this affect my performance? What am I capable of after eating this compared to before? This is a completely different relationship with food than the one that produces obesity. The Western relationship with food is primarily emotional and sensory. Does this taste good? Does this make me feel good? Does this reward me for the day I had? Food as comfort. Food as celebration. Food as compensation for difficulty. These are not wrong impulses. They are human impulses. But they are impulses that, when they become the primary framework for food decisions, produce bodies that reflect comfort and compensation rather than function and purpose. The samurai had emotions too. They experienced pleasure and celebration and the desire for comfort as fully as any human being. But those impulses existed within a larger framework that always returned to the same question: what does this do to my body? And is my body better or worse prepared for what it needs to do after I eat this? When you begin asking that question at every meal, not obsessively but consistently, the foods that make you fat gradually become less appealing, not because you are disciplining yourself against them, but because they fail the only test that matters. They make you worse, slower, heavier, less capable. And once you feel the difference between a body fed with nuchi gusui and a body fed for comfort, the choice becomes less about willpower and more about simple preference. You stop wanting what makes you less. Secret number 6. Shoku-iku, the education of eating. In Japan, food education begins before a child can fully understand what education means. Shoku-iku is the formal term for it. Nutritional education is a cultural practice rather than a school subject. Mothers teach children not just what to eat, but how to think about food. Grandmothers pass down not recipes, but philosophies. The understanding that what enters the body shapes the body, that the body shapes the mind, that the mind shapes the life. This chain of understanding creates something that no diet program can replicate. It creates a person who does not need rules about food because they have a relationship with food that makes destructive choices feel genuinely unappealing rather than forbidden. In the samurai household, this education was explicit and structured. A young samurai in training was taught to regard his body as his primary weapon and his primary responsibility. The dojo master did not simply teach sword technique. He taught the student what to eat before training, what to eat after, how to recognize the difference between hunger and craving, how to eat in conditions of scarcity without losing physical capability, how to eat in conditions of abundance without losing discipline. This education did not produce warriors who were thin because they were trying to be thin. It produced warriors whose relationship with food made thinness a natural byproduct of everything else they understood and practiced. The absence of this education in Western culture is not an accident. The food industry spends billions of dollars ensuring that children develop relationships with food based on pleasure, reward, and emotional association rather than on function and philosophy. A population educated in shoku-iku is a population that does not need the products the food industry sells. A population that sees food as medicine rather than reward has no use for the engineered hyper-palatable products that generate the highest profit margins. The samurai were lean in part because nobody was trying to make them fat. The modern Westerner is fighting not just their own impulses, but an industrial system specifically designed to override the body's natural signals and replace them with manufactured ones. Understanding this does not solve the problem, but it changes what the problem actually is. It is not a lack of willpower. It is a lack of the philosophical foundation that makes willpower unnecessary. Secret number 7. Kaizen, the 1% body. We arrive at the final secret, and it is the one that makes all the others sustainable. Kaizen means continuous improvement through small, consistent steps. You have heard this word before in this channel, in the context of the mind and habits. But its application to the body is where it becomes most immediately practical. The Western approach to physical transformation is dramatic by default. 30-day challenges, complete dietary overhauls, eliminating entire food categories overnight, training programs that go from 0 to daily intensity. These approaches share a single fatal flaw. They are too large for the nervous system to absorb without triggering the resistance response that eventually dismantles them. The body, like the mind, does not change through force. It changes through consistent small pressure applied over time. 1% better today than yesterday, nothing more. The samurai trained this way not because they lacked ambition, but because they understood how permanent change actually works. A sword is not sharpened in one session. It is sharpened daily, consistently, in small increments that accumulate over months and years into a blade of extraordinary quality. A samurai who sharpened his sword dramatically for 3 days and then abandoned the practice for a month ended up with a worse blade than one who spent 2 minutes on it every single day without exception. The body responds to exactly the same principle. Small changes made consistently and permanently are infinitely more powerful than large changes made temporarily and abandoned. This means that the path to a lean body is not a program with a start and end date. It is a permanent and gradual shift in the philosophical framework through which you understand your body. Beginning with Hara Hachi Bu, adding Ichiju Sanzai, incorporating Ma, walking in nature, eating with the question of medicine rather than comfort, educating yourself in the samurai relationship with food until it stops being something you practice and starts being something you are. Each of these 7 secrets is a small step. None of them requires dramatic change. None of them requires suffering. None of them costs money or requires equipment or demands that you become someone completely different by next Monday. But together, applied consistently over time, they produce what the samurai produced, a body that reflects a mind that has decided to remain in charge of itself. A body that is lean, not because it is being controlled, but because it is being understood. The man from Texas went back to Japan in 2022. He had spent 3 years applying these 7 principles one at a time, in order, without dramatic intervention or strict dieting. He arrived weighing 190 pounds. He had lost 50 pounds in 3 years without a single diet, without a gym membership, without counting a single calorie. He said the most surprising thing about the process was not the weight loss. It was that at some point he stopped thinking about it. The principles had become the way he simply was, the way he ate, the way he moved, the way he thought about his body. That is what the samurai built, not a set of rules for staying thin. A way of being in which thinness is simply what happens when you live correctly. 7 secrets, 1 philosophy, 1,000 years of proof. The path is long. Walk it anyway. This is Void Dojo.